Okay, with Porter Justice, Carved in Stone is the short film play at the Sci-Fi Fantasy Film Festival. I'm in Toronto. It's 10:30 p.m., so it's late for me, but you're in Wyoming. So it's 8:30 right now for you guys.
Yes, 8:30 Mountain Daylight Time,
I think this is
US
the first time
United
I talked
States.
to someone from Wyoming, so I can mark that down in my calendar as I can check that box.
Nice. Very
But
cool.
but this film was done at the Savannah College of Art and Design, correct?
That is correct. Yes, this film was my graduate thesis film um for my MFA.
So we've shown more than a few films from this college. And the
Hmm.
one thing that stands out with all the films is the production design, like the overall quality of the film. Like this seems like a pretty big budget. There's a lot going on. There's some CGI in it. Pretty lengthy film. So tell me about working within that school with thesis projects. Like, do they give you a nice budget? They give you a nice, like, I'm assuming the equipment's great there.
Yeah, I mean they definitely provide a lot of the state of the art technology that we're able to use. And we were blessed to be able to be selected as a student production that was assisted in funding for the entirety, but we also ended up having to do a lot of our own crowdfunding
Sure.
and whatnot to supplement. In Carved in Stone, we have a number of action and fight scenes,
Yeah.
specifically sword fights, and so we it was important to us to hire proper stunt coordinators to go through and actually, supervise those and choreograph those fights. Working at SCAD with SCAD was amazing, and we had the opportunity to work on the first collegiate LED volume. Just like The Mandalorian used for their production, we
Yeah.
shot a number of scenes in a total of 14 days on a virtual production stage there, and that's only three years old now.
So
Brand
this
new
was all
technology.
shot on in a studio.
Not all of it. A lot of stuff was shot on location, and actually we used a lot of SCAD buildings as locations,
Okay.
like the um like the little conference room where Amelia finds out that she's um receiving the receiving the artifacts, the office of the late Dr. Bishop that she inherits with everything.
Yeah.
And so we shot both those scenes on a SCAD in a SCAD building. We also shot a lot of the exteriors around Savannah, um, and on campus grounds and whatnot. So everything, but yeah, almost everything was shot on campus in Savannah, with the exception of one scene, and that was the lakeside scene.
So the
Um,
beginning scene in the movie, that's shot out. That's not shot in the studio. That's shot outside.
no, so that opening scene was shot in studios.
Okay.
The with you're talking about with Dr. Bishop and Madison.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of the three scenes that we shot on the LED wall.
Gotcha. Yeah, because it kind of had, yeah, but basically, so okay, for let's go back for a second. So tell me
Sure.
about this story itself, because there's a lot of credited uh writers on this particular project. You
Correct.
directed it. Tell me about like how this kind of story came about.
How it came together. So, when the origin story really kind of came from, like, me and my producer had kind of toyed with the idea of working together on our final projects at SCAD. And he really wanted to do something action adventure,
That's
Indiana
Sean Hesse,
Jones-esque.
right? Hussey?
Correct, Sean Hussey.
Okay.
Yes. So Sean really wanted to do like an action adventure, high concept IP, kind of like Indiana Jones. And I pitched him this idea. I had a little booklet of just random ideas that I had, and the concept was, what if Excalibur was had to be returned to the stone and not received from the stone?
Yeah.
And then that kind of spun out, and we worked together to develop a basic structure of the story. And we really went in wanting to turn it into a web series. Like so we got our little writers room with two head writers, Teresa and Chris, and which they're phenomenal. They took on some of the hardest episodes, being the first and the last, and whatnot. But we also had AJ Daniels and Corinne Swanson, and
These are all
they
people at the school. They all go
yes,
to
and
the school?
these were all dramatic writing students.
Okay.
And we worked with them and wrote 5 episodes, which we comprised as our 5 acts for a fuller length pilot and whatnot. And we did it that way on purpose because originally we wanted to present it as like a web series that you could watch each episode on a commuting trip or whatnot, or as like if you're like a 13-year-old student, you can you can watch it on the bus or whatever,
Okay.
really really easy digestible snippets. Um but really, like, what I found in the benefit of doing that was were able to find a really good pacing for a 30-minute film, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what actually was one of the strengths that came out of writing each episode as its own standalone thing and then cutting them all together, is we had really good pacing for 30 minutes and you were engaged and not really losing your mind.
I never heard of a story like that, and I've done thousands of these, like in terms of like putting a proof of concept like that together.
Hmm.
That's kind of a modern kind of take on it because, like you said, you can kind of split this into 5 parts, I guess, right?
Yeah,
But it's also one version of a film.
correct. Yeah.
Is there more? Like, do you have more kind of stories? I'm assuming, or
There's some ideas in the back of my mind. We haven't developed too much of it out to as we've tried to see where what legs the project will grow and see where it takes us. I being part of the Fantasy Sci-Fi Festival has been a real blessing. I think it's going to help us quite a bit. And then recently we also received a best web series award at another festival. So, I think in terms of the future of the project, we really do hope that we can bring Amelia and Tristan back at some point, go on more adventures because as she says at the end, what's next? Well,
yeah,
there's lots of artifacts out there that people have taken and whatnot, and the idea of righting the wrongs of cultural appropriation and
yeah.
like returning things back to their original cultures is just kind of really great. I love that idea of restoration, and it's a big theme in my life personally, and as well as some of my friends and family. So
Did you steal the "What's next" line from The West Wing, or is that just a coincidence?
I think it's just this coincidence,
Okay.
you know.
So tell me about Nicole Wheeler. So she's in every scene. She's your lead.
Yeah.
She's got to have diversity to her. So where did you find her?
Nicole is amazing. She was a senior. Um, when I met her, she was a junior acting performing arts major at SCAD.
Mhm.
Sean knew her because he was also an undergraduate, so they had a lot of classes and crossed paths quite a bit in terms of other productions that they'd worked on. So we casted her in our proof of concept, um, which we had done March of 2022. Yes, 2022. And then yeah. And then I think it was 2022. No,
Time
2020.
flies. Yeah,
I know, now I can't remember.
yeah,
But we casted her as Amelia in our proof of concept, and then we kept her on for the big one, and she is phenomenal. Like we um she really took to some of the direction that I gave. I had given all of the actors books of character with specific characters that I wanted them to look at and whatnot. And hers, I gave Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn because I saw a lot of Vin in Amelia.
Hmm.
And so she really took to it. She was phenomenal. She gave amazing performances, and like she really brought Amelia to life. And she's also one of the star acting actresses from that came have come out of SCAD. Like there's no doubt she'll be leading lady at some point in the next few years.
So everybody in the film is taller than her. So kind of has an interesting dirt. Is that was that like was that something that you had in mind that you wanted
That
to
wasn't that wasn't intentional by
it's
any
almost like
means,
the underdog kind of like sub
but it really played into her character, especially because her characters feel so much smaller at the beginning.
yeah.
And she is kind of fighting for this thing that she believes in. And in the end, she even though she's there with Tristan and he's still taller than her, like you can feel this power and this strength that she's found in herself after this whole experience. And so yeah, it is a kind of a happy accident that that ended up happening.
Yeah. And it is you like then there's that kind of like tension, I guess, that romantic tension, I guess, right?
With Tristan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really fun and I know Tristan I know Jameson Cook, the actor who played Tristan, and Nicole had a really fun time. And actually the scene in I call it episode 4, but when they're in Percy's house right before they leave,
Yeah.
there was one part of that that wasn't written, and it was Nicole and Jameson's idea. It was when when she cuts him off and says can't or won't, because the line was written for at the shipyard before they get on the ship, but it wasn't rewritten for that scene. And so their chemistry was super awesome. They worked really well together. And yeah, and the romantic tension was always a fun thing to play with, to never to really, you know, fully satisfy.
So the character who plays Madison, her last name's Wheeler as well. They related?
No, that another just coincidence. Ashley Wheeler, Nicole Wheeler, our two leading ladies.
Oh, wow. Okay, so then the in terms of like there's moments of like I don't know what you call it CGI or like that Excalibur kind of recreation. How did you do
Mhm.
that? How did you do that scene?
So a lot of our 3D stuff, aside from a couple of shots, a lot of our big landscape shots was all done with in Unreal Engine and the game engine. And we had our environments. We did photogrammetry scans of the set pieces, of the stones on the set pieces, so that we were able to recreate the environment on in the engine. And it's the same environment we used in the on the set in the volume for those fight scenes. So everything was one to one. And so when she plunges the sword in and we go to those wide shots, all of that was done in Unreal Engine. And the only things that weren't were maybe some of the close-ups with like the beam shining down on her that was composited in traditional visual effects. And then the breaking of the sword was also a 3D simulation in a separate software.
So I don't know if it's a coincidence or there's something in the air, but I've been there's been a lot of sword movies that
Yeah.
that we've shown at our festivals, and swords seem to be a big deal.
Yeah, I think we're just
Um,
tired of guns, you know.
I think you're right. It could be, yeah. I
Yeah.
was thinking like, did you do like when did you get like when you're personally when did you get into like when did you learn about Excalibur? Or when did you get into swords? I don't know if you watched like
Mm.
another director was referencing like He-Man and Thundercats. I don't know, you're probably too young for that, but it's like that the sword play, that's the power of the sword, the subliminal message, right? That it means
Hmm.
it's not just a sword, that it means something. It's about humanity or
Oh, interesting. You know what? I've always been more of a fan of fantasy stuff than I have like science fiction or whatnot.
yeah.
Not now, don't get me wrong, I do enjoy science fiction, but I love more traditional, archaic kind of practices. and whatnot. And the sword to me is, you know, is it's an yeah, I guess I would say it's an extension of humanity because you're holding a weapon that you have to go fight with in close combat with another human, and you're not able to stand far away and do harm. But it's also a great tool and a great symbol of strength and power and whatnot.
Yeah, 100%. So okay, so then there's a sword fight between the two female characters.
Hmm.
How is that? Like you said, you had stunt people. That's like, did they have to rehearse that? I'm assuming for a few days.
Yeah, we actually had we had the stunt coordinator, his name Brian Cranston. He came up from
Not the guy from
Atlanta.
Breaking Bad. The
No. No, yeah. But he's well, now maybe I can't remember if his name's Brian Cranston now. Anyway, Brian, he's from ATL Stunts in Atlanta.
Okay.
And he did a great job. He came up a couple separate weekends, worked with the girls, worked on their movement, worked on their and gave them choreography, gave them practice swords that they were able to use at home and get together and whatnot. And then he came out a day or two before shooting, and we did some more run-throughs and refinements and whatnot. So then on the day we had prop swords for them to work to play with, and um and then he kind of was my secondary eyes and action director. I leaned on him quite a bit because it was my first time directing an action scene.
Yeah.
And so I collaborated with him very closely, and he was just super awesome to work with.
Because you're referencing Indiana Jones before, which is before your time too, I guess too, right?
Yeah.
But it's sort of my era, but it's sort of one of those. It's like a action kind of with a fantasy kind of element where we're
Hmm.
like the reality we don't know really know. Well, I guess in Indiana Jones we do, but in this film we can't pinpoint exactly where we are. But I guess it's like there's like a inciting incident, and then we go for the rest
Hmm.
of the film, right? And
Yeah.
we're kind of in real time. We just kind of like push ahead. We just the plot pushes further as she wears the same clothes and as she kind of like is in the same day, I guess, right?
Yeah, like it's supposed to take place over the course of a few like like a week. Like the travel from the United
Sure.
States to
Yeah.
England is by boat is like is a week-long journey.
Yeah, it's like in Indiana Jones where they had the map
Yeah,
and
and
yeah,
so like she gets more and more disheveled and like and whatnot, and then she gets her final hero outfit at the end. But
yeah,
yeah, I think we wanted to encapsulate a timelessness in this one, similar to Indiana Jones, because I can watch Indiana Jones today and it feels so timeless and quintessential when it comes to action adventure scenes and whatnot, or action adventure stories
yeah.
and whatnot. And so yeah.
No, it's a good plot device. Even Star Wars does that, right? Where it's like we
Hmm.
just have there's a moment and then we just like we're kind of in real time for the rest of the journey.
Right. And I attribute that to our original development stage because Sean and I, we basically printed out a Joseph Campbell hero's journey template
Mhm.
and just said, okay, this is what it is, and we just started filling it out and filling it out, and then we took it to the writer's room, and then we broke the story. We said, this isn't gonna work, this is gonna work, product this might be expensive to do. Let's fix it, let's do something here. And we just collaborated over and over. Then, we started writing, we met with the writers early before the summer started, and then writing happened through the summer and in the fall, while we were doing concept art development and whatnot. So the whole process was like very, very calculated, and one of the goals that Sean and I wanted to do is we wanted to approach it as we would a professional Hollywood production, like
Mm.
all cross all of our P's and Q's, all the trimmings, You know, everyone has a job. Every role is filled by someone else. You know, he and I weren't wearing m multiple hats,
Yeah,
even though I ended up wearing both a VFX hat and a director hat.
yeah,
So,
it happens, right?
but that happens, and it's inevitable, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
So, okay, so everybody in the crew, your cinematographer, art director, production designer, costume, everybody's from the school.
Everyone's from the school. We had over 200 students collaborate and provide a work for this production.
Wow. And then you
Yeah.
showed it, you had like a screening of the a student screening afterwards.
Yep, there's the student showcase at the end of um June at the end of May or June 2023, and then it wasn't officially completed until that next November 2023, which is when we started, and then soon after that we started our festival run.
So according to your Instagram page, you're a husband and a father. So you're doing all this while you have children.
Yes, I have two little girls. One is 3 and the other one is almost 2. She turns 2 in like a month and a
Oh,
half.
so you just did it right after another. You just like you got it out of the way, I guess.
Yep. Yep, you know.
So you're busy.
We like
You're
them
like
close.
these are newborns. So basically you're making the film. So I guess your wife is the one of the champions of this film as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the credits, and actually almost every single one of my credits, there's always a credit line that says, you know, with love, my wife Arita, or and actually in this one, my youngest daughter, she was born 2 weeks before production happened.
Oh wow.
So she's in the credits as our production baby, and and yeah, and this is they're all supporting and awesome about what I do, and yeah, so that's it. You know, we just got to balance that family life with making movies, which is can be tricky.
So now, so then what are you up to now? What do you, so you grab, I'm assuming you graduated, you got a good grade with the project. So what are you up to now?
Yes, I did. I received my MFA, and I actually did do two graduate studies simultaneously. I did an MFA in film and television directing, and then I also did an MA in VFX. So this was all kind of collate, you know, a collation of everything that I was studying at SCAD. Nowadays, I'm working freelance as a VFX and virtual production
Yeah.
artist and supervisor. Um, and yeah, doing a lot of freelance work. I'm actually going to be returning to SCAD Atlanta at the end of the month to to be an alumni mentor for the students there who are going to be working on the LED wall. And and yeah, and so now, and in the meantime, I continue to develop my own projects. I've got a couple that I'm stewing and looking and will be starting to collaborate with writers on in the next couple weeks. And yeah, so that's what I'm up to.
And then you also got a degree at BYU as well, right?
Yes, my undergraduate studies at BYU Idaho was in theater performance and directing with a minor in video production. So I basically tailored a film degree out of the out of the school without really getting a film degree.
Well, it's great stuff. It's like a nice, like you said, nice proof of concept. You go to your website, we'll have a link on your website. You do have some visual arts, visual effects, reel as well. So
Yep.
some work there. And yeah, congratulations on everything. I wish you the best of success.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate
Yeah, you're well traveled already. So
it.
and yeah, those and I'm sure those two girls will keep you busy for a while.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, and let's talk again when you make your next film.
All right, will do. I look forward to submitting another one.